Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our next episode of Masters of Product. Our topic for today is rethinking how government can adopt AI. And to help us with our topic, we have Sabina Andersson. And Sabina is the CPO at State of Colorado for the Department of Early Childhood. She has over 15 years of experience in progressive product leadership across companies, startups, enterprise, and government. As for me, I'm your host, Mustafa Kapadia. I help product organizations figure out how to use AI so they can be more effective and efficient. You can learn more about me and my services at echo-point.com. Sabina, welcome to the show. I've been looking forward to this.
Thank you. It's going to be fun.
Yes, this is such a great topic. Given where we are right now and everything going on, just understanding how government uses AI, how the government adopts AI, I think it's a great topic. So I'm looking to it. So tell me, our topic is rethinking how government uses AI. So before we start about the rethinking, let's talk about how government traditionally adopts technology and how you've seen other departments adopt AI.
Yeah, I think traditionally how government adopts technology, it has been kind of like a wait and see or kind of lagging behind. I think often because you don't really see a lot of technology teams within the individual agencies. Sometimes you see kind of like a shared agency model where
Yeah.
there is this kind of central IT, and then all agencies kind of ask for that agency to help implement whatever kind of like problem statement or solution they have within their agency. I think what we're seeing now is a trend where a lot more agencies are starting to have more and more technical expertise and capabilities within their respective agencies, kind of like what you're seeing with our agency. So our
Yeah.
agency is fairly new. We're about 3 years old. And we have a product management team within our agency now. And
Which
we've
is
been,
unheard of in government most of the time, right?
yeah, it is very, very rare. So our team has been in existence for about a year now, but it tremendously helps when it comes to looking at the art of possibility and what do we actually want to do with technology and how do we serve people the best. And I think when it comes to AI, you almost see kind of like three different kind of categories of
Hmm.
people and agency and how they tend to adopt technology, but also AI. So I think you kind of see first, and I think probably the most common, the kind of skeptical and cautious type of
Yes.
people. They worried about bias. They are worried about hallucinations, rightfully
Yeah.
so. There's a lot of that. You also see the kind of eager, all-in type of personalities, and
Yeah.
they want to implement AI everywhere, and sometimes it doesn't always have a clear
Yeah.
strategy. I think the last one is kind of like the wait and see.
Yeah.
They want to kind of wait until the hype settles and technology feels more proven, and then kind of see how they can adopt it. And usually that comes with either legislation or vendors
Mm.
pitching something. So you can kind of see a little bit of all different shapes. And I think that sometimes you can also see that type of those three buckets within the people who are working within the agencies too.
Yeah. The different mindsets. I agree. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as often as I feel like, it's up to leadership to kind of see how they want to transition the various agency into, responsible use of AI, but also how do you, help coach a workforce or staff that might fit into one of these buckets, because not
Yeah.
the entire organization is not going to fit into one.
No. No. I agree with you. I mean, if you think about government, you don't really think about government being innovative, right? It's just
Mhm.
more slow, it's more deliberate, and for some of it's for good reason, right?
Yeah,
But then you bring in something like AI, and it completely changes the way you do things. Because it's also changing not just the way we use technology, but all the constituents that you're helping changes as well.
exactly.
It adds another dynamic to it. Um, so tell me, I know you've thought deeply about all of these topics. So tell me how you are thinking about or what you're doing in your department and your agency of bringing AI, because you're taking a radically different approach, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And I think, it kind of speaks to the point of like, we don't have the same type of opportunity to kind of fail fast like startups because we have an inherent risk if
Yeah.
we don't, are more methodical and thoughtful of how we are
Excellent.
implementing technology. Because like we are to Department of Early Childhood, if we fail fast, the consequences can be pretty serious. We can be
Yes.
putting a
Well, you're
child's
affecting
life
people's
at
lives.
risk.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's, as much as we want to experiment and learn quickly, we have to do it, very carefully so we don't put a
Yeah.
person's life at risk.
Yeah. Yeah.
So so we're trying to kind of combine our balancing of learning with innovation and still having that deep responsibility of how to
Yeah.
protect people.
Yeah.
Um, and we recognize right now that our learning shouldn't be in the kind of solution space with AI.
Mm.
We want to try to kind of keep two different buckets of how we are maturing with AI, because the only way for us to kind of truly mature with AI is
Yeah.
to kind of work with it. So we are trying to spend as much time with AI in our discovery phase.
Got it.
Yeah, so not jumping into solutioning, but what can we do
Yeah.
with AI in the discovery phase? I think we see very commonly that, workflow automation and,
Yeah.
process improvements and those kind of things, but we're trying to go a little bit deeper.
Hmm.
So we're trying to see like what can we do to actually um, kind of complement the flaws that we have as humans and
Yes.
have
Yeah.
more
I
of
agree.
a data-driven decision or data-driven
Yeah.
discovery rather than assumptions-driven discovery.
Can you share an example of what you think? Because I agree with you. I think having AI in or help you in AI in discovery is great. Having AI do some of the process, not automation, but augmentation is fantastic as well. But I'm curious if you can, like, where have you seen within your department or your agency work really well?
Yeah, so one of the prototypes we kind of just concluded. So this is personally something I'm very, very excited about because we did an estimate for a big technology build that was going to be costing like $800,000 or
Oh,
something
wow.
like that.
Yeah.
And we're like, you know what? If we're going to go and develop something like this, we have to be really confident that this is what we
Hmm.
want to do. So we started kind of looking at our assumptions of like how are we actually approaching this, and we
Yeah.
started thinking about the use case here is to understand how to kind of keep childcare facilities in business and making sure that they exist and are thriving, because if there are no childcare providers, you can't have your child in childcare, and this has a big ripple effect into
Yeah.
families' lives, the economy. People can't go back to work. So instead of us having our assumption, these are the factors that are important for childcare providers to stay in business. What if we actually prototype this? So we
Perfect.
pulled together various different data sources that are,
Mhm.
non-PII, it's secure for this type of use case. And we started to do analysis and correlation modeling with AI. So looking at structured and unstructured data
Nice.
from, why people are
Love it.
offboarding, and you know trying to find correlations from that, instead of
Mm.
us saying these are the things that matter, actually have technology
Yeah.
tell us we think
Yeah.
this actually matters.
Perfect. Yeah. I like it because you're enhancing, like you said, both the human and the AI piece. The AI gives you a lot of options and data that you may not have looked at, but ultimately you
Exactly.
guys are the ones that are deciding.
Yeah,
Do you mind if I just go a bit deeper? So are you using this
absolutely.
are you using this model to A, not just make decisions, but then after that, figuring out how you can actually then spend the budget that you've been given, right? Or
Yes,
how
and
far are you thinking about using this across the whole
well,
process?
what we're trying right now actually is to do more replicable models of how we go about larger data initiatives.
Got it.
And we are still at the point where we're thinking that maybe we should have more data sets and more data sets
Yeah.
instead of going into production with this. Our
Mm.
intention is actually to have a higher confidence rate, because we are still, I think we're pulling from um, four different systems right now. So hundreds of files, but 4 different
Yeah.
systems. But we are also saying like, but that might actually not be enough, and actually start to have more of an iterative process with
Yes.
our prototypes too, to be able to understand where we want to go and how we want to do this. And this in particular actually becomes an interesting kind of working model and methodology,
Yeah.
especially when we start looking at data from other agencies too. Because
Yeah.
every single agency, they kind of have their own language of what matters, what doesn't matter. So how can we actually get to prototyping and confidence rate in our
Yeah.
discovery process before we start doing big builds?
This is great. And actually, so allow me to tie it back to the first question, right? So we really talked about how this is rethinking how government is doing work. I'm curious, how has your team or your colleagues around you um, received this new way of working? Like, what has been their reaction? Or tell me both. What has been both the positive reaction and the pushback or the pullback that you get? Because I'm sure you're getting
Um,
both.
I we're getting both. I think honestly, it's a mix of being both in the prototyping space
Interesting.
and changing our way of working to saying we are okay with saying that we don't know everything, but we can get there by testing our assumptions out and adding more data sets that we even didn't know mattered or not. This is
Right.
a very new way of working in government where we tend to do, stakeholder interviews, get
Yeah.
like acceptance criteria, and then start
Yeah.
building,
Yeah.
handing that
It's a
off to
very
the
gated,
vendor.
formal approach, right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And we are basically saying we are going to, put that to the side, and we're going to go and be messy with technology instead.
Nice.
That can make a lot of people very
Very
uncomfortable.
uncomfortable. Yes.
Yeah, but I think we are starting to get enough people within our core working group to say, like, you know what, this is actually really, we can actually expedite a lot of the ways that we're working and actually get to higher confidence rate. And I think we're kind of seeing the aha and light
Yeah.
bulbs, and it's like we need to start doing this more. So I
Yes.
think when we first kicked this off, there was a lot of pushbacks. And I think that, the AI part was part of it, but I think that being messy and not having a plan, because I think, when we started off, it's like, okay, we need to have, a 20-page document of everything we
Yeah.
want to accomplish. What are the outcomes? What are the plans? What is the technology? We need
Yeah.
to have
Very,
everything
very
outlined.
deliberate. Yes. There's no
Yeah,
discovery in it, right? Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But we said no to that. And we're like, we are going to change the behavior. And I think I wanted to really foster that kind of psychological safe space of being messy with technology
Yes.
and data. So
Yes.
when this entire initiative kicked off, we had a high ratio of managers to individual contributors in the meeting. And I had to tell everyone, like, you guys are not going to, you can't be in the meeting anymore. We're going to have emails going out to you of what we're
Yes.
learning, but we have to have a psychological safe space of where people can be
Yeah.
creative. So I think we've had a lot of tremendous success with it. And
That's
now we're
good.
seeing that we want to do this
Yeah.
more throughout agencies.
Well, there's two things which I really like what you're doing is number one is with the good thing about with AI is that you can show proof so quickly, right? So even if
Yes.
you have a skeptical audience, and I'm sure you have a lot of pushback in certain areas, you can just show it to them very quickly. So I think that helps. But the second thing that you talked about, I think, is just as important is like how do you rearrange the human dynamics by asking the managers to please leave in a very nice way.
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
and still get the work done because you're absolutely right. Because the whole idea, like you said, there's two levels of changes that you're doing here too, right? And number one is just being a bit messy and using it for discovery. And so you can do a lot of fail fast without actually impacting the larger constituents, but also rearranging the way government works because it is a very tops down organization, right?
Yep.
Um, so I like the fact that you're doing both. Um, I know that when you start off, not just with this prototyping one, but just before that, you had actually created, if I'm not mistaken, your own maturity model to kind of help you and your team and your agency to figure out how to adopt AI. Um, tell me more about, before we actually talk to the model, tell me the genesis as to why you even create a maturity model. What was the reason why you decided to do it? And then let's talk about how you actually used it.
So We started off with working on maturity models because people felt overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And they felt overwhelmed in terms of, should I be using AI? How should I be using AI? Am I doing this the right way? And there's one part that is, the governance, and that is basically making sure that we are being responsible with AI. But there's the way that I wanted to use the maturity model is to actually give people a sense of empowerment and North Star. It's like, this is
Yeah.
how you're going to be evolving with AI. And also kind of putting a kind of future state of, where are we going and how does our governance need to evolve to be able to meet that? So we're working with an AI maturity model that it's like exploring, emerging, integrating, and leading.
Nice. Yeah.
And right now, we can very confidently say that with our existing governance model and the way that we are doing approval processes, we cannot get to leading. And that's
Yeah.
okay. But setting that vision of where we're going and how we are going to be evolving with AI
It sets
allows us to also,
expectations of what to, yeah,
yeah,
I agree. Yeah.
exactly. And the funny thing is that, if you would have asked me a month ago about my maturity model, I would feel like, yeah, no, we feel pretty good about it. But I'm looking at the maturity model today. I'm like, oh, we need to completely change this,
Yeah.
because what leading looked like a month ago with AI
It's completely
doesn't
different.
look the same this month.
Yeah.
Technology is evolving so fast
It's,
that
yeah.
leading is looking to completely different.
Yeah. Yes, and it is I think part of the reason why it's changing so fast is people need some kind of direction because otherwise it's
Yeah,
just like a whiplash, right?
exactly.
I'm
And I think
curious.
also this
Sorry, go ahead, please.
I think also with this type of maturity model, it also kind of shows the different types of skill set and different types of avenues that you can actually
Mm,
move towards working with different AI tools. So, for instance, we tend to very often see, how do you improve your productivity, like
yeah,
summarizing notes and those kind of things, and
yeah,
that's good and all. But when we're starting to look at how this applies in government, the one thing that I'm really excited about is like, how are we incorporating in inclusive design and equitable thinking
yes,
into our model using AI? Because there are so many different avenues that we can actually be better with AI and actually like kind of complement our skill sets.
yeah. I do like that too. So tell me, I know maturity model is one of it. Number one, number two is being more exclusive is another approach in which you're changing the way, at least the state of Colorado, or at least your department is adopting AI. What else have you what else have you done or what else are you thinking about to help you drive just people being more comfortable with using AI, right? And I guess there's
Um,
both parts to it, right? I'm sorry. Number one is comfortable to be using AI to do the things that you just talked about, like the prototyping, but also be okay with the results because sometimes people don't trust the results either, right?
yeah, and I think we shouldn't trust the results.
Yeah.
That's okay. I
Yes.
think that, educating people that AI is biased because technology is biased, because
Yeah.
the
100%.
reality is that every single software that we see and interact with was developed by humans. The
Yes.
knowledge sources is all written by humans.
Yes.
Humans are biased. So
Yes.
no matter
100%.
what,
And especially with
yeah.
AI is very much North America biased. If
Mhm.
and it is really biased towards the people who actually do a lot of writing towards, right? So it is biased
Exactly.
to the U.S. English language, and so there's a lot of biases inherently in the way the data is trained because the underlying data is,
Exactly.
most of it comes from the outside of the oh, sorry, from the inside of the U.S. So
Exactly.
yeah,
So how do we, in that case, recognize what are the flaws and how do we work with it? So I think that is a big hurdle for a lot of people to cross. Like, no,
yeah,
like AI is not going to be perfect because humans aren't perfect. But
yeah.
doesn't mean that you are going to stop working with humans. You're gonna like you can
Well, there
find
might be
flaws in
some humans I
everything.
want to stop working with, but that's okay.
Yeah, but in that kind of sense, even with humans, where you're like, hey, you're really biased. how do you work with that
Yeah.
human to make sure that you're not being, discriminatory, right?
Yeah.
We can think about that the same thing with AI. How do we work with it in a way that, we can be self-critical? We also know that the AI is very, confirmation bias heavy. It tends
Yes.
to take a very safe route, and it tends, like, the goal of AI is to keep you engaged.
Yes.
So how do you work with that? So it's
Mm.
okay to have, a cautious and skeptical mindset, but that shouldn't stop you. So instead of saying, what we're saying right now within our agency is, don't say no, say yes if.
Yes. Yes, if. Okay. It's variation of yes and. Yes, I like that.
Hmm. Yeah.
Um, and so yes, if in what's case or scenario? Can you give us an example?
Yeah. For instance, if you feel like this is a risky area to go into,
Yeah.
instead of saying no, say yes if these requirements are met, or if
Got
these
it.
checkpoints are met.
The
If
guardrails
these
you talked about, yeah.
Exactly. So a
Right.
new thing that we're kind of tinkering with is that, can we have AI be grounded in we call it like our vulnerability persona?
Mm,
So we are obviously very mindful that anything that we are developing, we have to be equitable. We have to make sure that it's meeting people's need. And one thing that we are recognizing within, our agency is that the research that we tend to do in government,
yeah.
it tends to be with the people who, we talk to, right? You should always talk to your users.
100%.
But a lot of people don't talk to government. So, for
No.
instance, the people that we tend to talk to, they're the people who have time, resources, and they speak English.
Yeah.
But how do
Not
you
always the case
develop
with our constituents, yes.
exactly? But how do you develop for someone who doesn't trust government, who never wants to talk to government?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to make sure that we are keeping those in mind too. How about the
Yeah.
people who don't have resources, the people working 3 jobs, and for them to attend a town hall is
It's a
absolutely,
yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
100%. Yeah. Or even to attend a Zoom meeting on a town hall is just not part of the preview, right?
Mm-mm.
Um, I do want to talk about how you're also rethinking how AI is changing the dynamics between you and your constituents. But before we go into that one, um, where have you seen other organizations try to adopt your framework or the methodology or your maturity model? What have you seen? Um, has there been interest? Has been other department in the state of Colorado who's like more saying, "Hey, you know what? I want to do what Sabina's doing. I want to be just like her."
Um, I think there are 2 parts to it. I think there is, one, adopting a product management mindset, which is
Mm,
kind of the first adoption that we're starting to see. So our agency was kind of the first official agency to start doing product management within the state of
yes,
Colorado. And now there's a very ambitious effort to have all agencies kind of follow
perfect.
suit
Yeah,
and do product management
yeah,
to, truly meet users' need.
yeah. Well, that directly points to the success that you and your agency have had because you had been the poster child to that, right?
And I
So
and I also think, we've had some tremendous successes. I think, we earlier this year, we won an award for Project of the Year from the
very
Colorado
cool.
Technology Association. So we were able to push out new products in a very rapid pace, which is very unheard of in
Yeah,
government. And I think these kind of successes, a lot of people heard about it, but also the governor that we have there, he's very he comes from a technology space,
perfect.
so he
Yes, and that helps.
recognizes that helps tremendously. So
Yeah,
he and his team, the governor's office, are helping kind of like champion this and making sure that other agencies are following suit. So we
yeah.
have now a product management community of practice. The governor's office, they are spearheading a lot of like, hey,
Oh,
this
great.
is actually a
Yeah,
really good thing.
yeah.
And the AI maturity model, I think we have been a little bit on like we haven't really been talking out loud a lot
Yeah,
about it. And I think just recently, within the last month, is when people have started kind of like hearing what we're doing. And people are
perfect.
like, hey, do you guys want to share what's happening? What are y'all
Yeah, there
doing
you
over
go.
there?
Well, that's great. You can show them this interview and saying, now you finally launched the AI maturing model. So
Yeah,
um,
exactly.
I think that's great. I think you're absolutely right. I think having the right leadership or having the support of the governor's office to actually help you drive product thinking is great, because I think that is almost the first step in trying to adopt AI, right? And I think having a maturing model helps people give that vision that they need to, and then
Yeah,
they can also figure out where they fit in, like where they are now and where they don't want to be. Right? That's the
exactly.
point of a maturing model. I
Hmm.
think that's good. Sabina, if it's okay, let's switch focus. We've talked a lot about how the government internally is adopting AI, but it's also what we talked about earlier, or a little bit about it earlier, is how your constituents, how your users are now using AI, right? And now, because they're using AI a bit, or they're starting to use AI, their expectations of what the government should and should not do is changing as well. So,
100%.
tell me, you and I started talking about this right before we were talking about the prep a few weeks ago. And I think it's a fascinating point of view. So, tell us more about what you're seeing. Let's start there, and then we can talk about how you're actually incorporating those changes into your product.
Yeah, so this is a I absolutely love this space because this what AI is actually having a like evolution is like, yes, we are getting our productivity tools and people are starting to use AI in their work. But what we're actually seeing is AI is having a big change of human behavior.
Yeah.
And that is really, really fascinating. So we were having a conversation earlier, like a couple of months ago. It's like, hey, should we be using like a chatbot on our website to be able to help our constituents get information faster? But then we're also seeing a pretty rapid increase of traffic that's AI generated. And I'm not talking about referral, people are clicking the links and going into our
Yeah.
website, but we're seeing crawling behavior that is like a chatbot.
Yeah.
So what we're seeing is actually people are, asking their ChatGPT or Gemini or whatever,
Yeah.
and that chatbot is providing the information to them in their chatbot.
Yeah.
And for us, we are not beholden to like, oh, we need to keep our people on our side as long as possible. Those are not our type of KPIs. We
No.
want to help people as much
Yeah.
as possible in whatever way works for them. So instead of us developing our own chatbots, we are trying to recognize like there is a huge influx of people
Yeah.
using their own AI that have, nuance and context about them, and to
Yes.
be able to surface the right type of information to the constituents. So instead of us implementing our own chatbots, we're starting to look, okay, so how can we instead update our information architecture to be AI friendly?
Yes. Perfect. What a great idea.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So we are doing, an audit of all of our websites. Like how, like, are we, first of all, are we allowing AI to crawl our
Yes.
websites?
A lot of websites don't allow that, which is a shame in this day and age. That's right.
Exactly. And that needs to be our new acceptance criteria. AI needs to be able to crawl our websites.
Yes.
That's actually a good thing now.
Yeah.
So we have to change our own mindset.
Yeah.
And we are also thinking about, you know, we have previously been very strong advocates of, having a clean and simple UI. Obviously, that still has to remain, but there's a new user who has kind of come on board, and that is
Yes.
AI.
Yeah.
So, for instance,
Yeah. Or a
um,
user using AI to connect to your data or to connect to your information, and you want to make sure that they get
exactly.
the right services. Yeah.
So we have to be more mindful of what's behind and in front
Yeah.
of a login page. What is, a clickable form? Because we have, for instance, one experience that it's a very simple screener or like
Right.
questionnaire, and you click via the sites and filling out your information. We recognize like this isn't AI friendly, but we want to get this information to the people
Yeah.
who uses it. So how do we get all the valuable information in a way that is a simple UI for people who want to be on a web page, but also that AI can easily crawl and get the same type of information to constituents in whatever way they want?
Yeah. Sabina, it sounds like such a simple idea, but it's so smart, because even right now, so many of the companies I know are investing in building their own chatbot. But in reality, you're like, you know what? OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, they have massive amount of investments. They're gonna crawl our website anyways. Why not
Exactly.
just change my information architecture to be more friendly towards them? And then you do have your own chatbot, and you're
Yeah.
meeting your constituents or your people where they are, because they're gonna trust, for lack of a better word, they're gonna trust what comes out of OpenAI more than they're gonna come to your chatbot, right? In order for them to come to your chatbot, they have to come to your website. That's another step. And then,
And it's also more cost effective.
yeah,
We don't have to
100%.
maintain and keep that
Yeah,
operational, and we don't have to have the same type of,
yeah,
evaluation and making sure that, our like how our chatbot is behaving. We can actually say it's okay to leverage what technology is
yeah,
out there for the
yeah,
constituents. And even if you look at, the kind of target demographic or the kind of common users that we see using AI today, like it's parents. And parents are adopting AI super quickly right
super fast.
now.
Well, and the fact is, the other thing that you get out of all of this is that it takes sometimes very complicated government language into easy to understand, right? Because sometimes the
Exactly.
way we write things, it makes sense to us, but may make sense to a lawyer, but it doesn't
Mhm.
make sense to the person who's actually reading it. And so you have both the ability that you're meeting them where they are, which is huge, um, helping them understand your information so it's easier for them to leverage your services. And more importantly, without all the cost that goes with it,
Yeah.
right? I think that's awesome. I wish more agencies would do that because I think it's a brilliant idea. Um,
Yeah, hopefully that we're gonna be seeing that a lot more. I think more and more, you know, government entities are starting to adopt more technology first type of mindset and understanding data more. So
yes,
I think, hopefully these types of conversations that we're having, there's gonna be
yes,
a lot more of
no,
them
and
elsewhere too. So
I think government agencies have always had a hard time getting their message across in a way that their users can understand. And now you almost have a translation engine,
yes,
right? And so this is
which
great.
it's incredible.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time to be. I love this. Love it. I'm curious, where do you want to go next? I mean, you've done a fantastic job in just a short amount of time of driving product thinking and product management best practices within the organization. Now you're driving AI adoption. The fact is that you're prototyping and experimenting, which is unheard of in most agencies. You're also rethinking the whole user experience that we just talked about and how you can leverage the billions that OpenAI is investing versus the government. um, What's next? Where do you want to go for your agency or for the state of Colorado?
I think there are kind of two aspects that I want to lean in more. And I think one of them is how do we build in better equality, equity type of mindset throughout all of our
Mhm.
AI work? Because I think that, we want to make sure that we are doing the right thing for people. And understanding, are we doing the right thing for people? I think there's a huge amount of opportunities here, that we are still just scratching the surface. And me personally, I'm also getting super excited by vibe coding,
Oh, yes.
understanding understanding how we actually can create tools and prototype and actually test out
Yes.
our ideas
Internal
much
productivity tools
faster.
are fantastic with vibe coding. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, there are so many, leaps and bounds of what's happening in the technology space today. So if we can evolve with it and understand how we can, test out our assumption, be more data driven, and just be smarter upfront and like changing the landscape completely of how software is being developed in government.
Yes, 100%. I also think that you're not being fair to yourself. I think you're also helping. We unfortunately live in a time in which trust in government is at an all-time low, if you look at all the polls. And by doing the things
Yes.
that you're doing, you're changing the perception, which I think is even huge, right? Of all the things that we're doing with technology, just the fact that you're meeting the user where they are, changing the way you guys are doing things, getting more information, getting more data, it all leads to building more trust, right? And I think that helps, especially in the times that we're living in. So,
I completely agree. I feel like there's I think, there are a lot of things that are happening in the political space right now, but knowing that there are people who are protecting the vulnerable population, wanting to do the right thing, thinking about how to do things better, more cost efficient, and just thinking about, people first.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of people in government, and it might not seem like that when you're looking at all the media, but there's a lot of people here
Yeah.
who are very passionate and want to have the right
100%.
type of impact.
Yeah. I agree. I think we have some of the most passionate and some of the most brilliant people working in government. We sometimes have to just let them do their jobs.
Yeah, I agree.
Um, Listen, Sabina, I know we're almost out of time. I know there's other things that are brewing that I would love to talk about, but we can't. I understand why. So hopefully we'll get you back. But before I let you go, I always like to ask this question to all my guests. It's like, how are you using AI, or how is it helping you, or any personal hacks? We can even talk about your most latest vibe coding project. So tell me.
Honestly, I think that the one thing that I think it kind of like has been impactful for me is actually making me a more empathetic person.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
say, yeah, and I think, one of the examples that I have right now at the kind of top of
I
mind
think you
is
have that covered, but
um,
tell me more about why you think.
so, like for instance, when I'm creating new onboarding plans for my direct report, I have kind of like my standard onboarding. Like this is all the
Yeah.
information you need to know. This is kind of like what 30, 60, 90 days look like. Um, but I also ask the person who's onboarding, can you take like a strength finder test to
Oh,
be able to understand how do they actually work the best, what excites them, what
yes.
really gets them
Yeah.
going. And I have a document on my management style, and
Oh,
I put
yeah.
all these three together, and I ask AI to create a custom onboarding plan that gets them
Oh, that's
excited.
perfect.
And what I've seen is that people who, have the 30, 60, 90 days, they get to kind of like the 90-day milestone within
Yeah,
30 days because they get
that's
so
awesome.
amped up.
I love it. So you're taking their profile of what they like and how they work. You're taking your profile of how you like to work, and then you take the onboarding material and you're saying, okay, let's customize it to work for both. I think that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's a great way. Um, I think that's a great way to onboard and get people and customize it. That's awesome. Yeah, maybe
Yeah. It's
that's
kind
just a
of,
show and tell episode in its own. So you're gonna be sick and tired of coming to the show. This is great. I know we're almost out of time. We can talk about it. We can talk about this forever. I am looking forward. I know you have big conferences coming up in which you're going to share about these things. I'm looking forward to that, but I would love to have you back. Once, you can talk about your secret project. And second is we would love to see how you actually do it, because at least with AI, sometimes showing people how to do things and for them to understand how easy it is also a part of the journey. So
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, I'll be excited to be back. I think that there's going to be
good.
so much things are going to happen in the next couple of months, year
Right, by then,
especially.
we'll
So,
have other things to talk about, and then we'll be a
yeah,
whole backlog of things. So, maybe we need a
absolutely.
productivity tool or a vibe coding tool to help us figure out topics for our next conversation.
Yeah,
Um,
sounds great.
Perfect. Well, Sabina, thank you for being here. This is fantastic. I had a great time. We will have to
Same.
have you back. And best of luck in your transformation. I think, like I said before, it's not just a transformation of how the state of Colorado works, but it's also about the people inside it and their relationship with technology, its relationship with the constituents, and ultimately it's the trust in government. So thank you.
Thanks so much for having me on here.
Good. Well, I will definitely have you back.
Sounds great.